Это красиво, не правда ли?
It's beautiful, isn't it? At least it is unusual. Yet some compare these cooling towers with sentinels of nuclear power. But I would rather call them workers. It is no mere chance that the building of Novovoronezh nuclear power plant bears an inscription that reads, "Let atom be a worker, not a soldier." These words by Igor Kurchatov became the symbol of nuclear power development. A reactor's destiny is like that of a human being. It's born, grows, advances, works, and then dies. Also, there are achievements and great victories in a reactor's life. There are also mishaps and hardships. Thereat, some can be overcome, some cannot. And there are also passions around the reactor. You know about them, but we'll try to tell you about the passions that are running high around the reactor and govern its destiny. Once Niels Bohr exclaimed, "The reactor is a wonder. Only gods who live somewhere on Earth can create it." We are perfectly aware of the address at which these reactor gods live and create. It's exactly there, in the Institute of Atomic Energy named after Igor Kurchatov, where our hero came into the world. It happened shortly after the world's first nuclear power plant had been put into operation in Obninsk. At that time, right after 1954, Kurchatov's team seemed to get it clear what ways into the future the physics should pursue, the physics that had loudly announced its coming with nuclear explosions.
Soon after, our institute has started working on large commercial nuclear reactor options. It became clear that the water-water reactors were coming in the foreground. Once, together with a person who is well known to all of us, Viktor Sidorenko, the father of VVR technology, we sat and drew a tree, the VVR tree. It turned out to be a good picture. 66 reactors were giving energy to people. 45 years have passed, and the result is also unique. Only 7 reactors have been shut down, but 59 continue operating for us. The picture is unique. Each time I look at it, I want to sing an anthem to the people and the reactors, to the reactors and the people, because it's impossible, perhaps, to separate them. What the VVR technology is? Firstly, it is our Russian technology, which was not stolen from anybody. It was not imitated from anything. The VVR technology grew up from submarine reactors. And all of us, the people who work in the civil peaceful nuclear power today, were born by the work which has been carried out under the Soviet atomic project since 1943. People, technologies, brains, all these were born there. And today, when we look at all this, at the technology that works today, not only in Russia, but also in Ukraine, Armenia, Hungary, Bulgaria, China, and in a while India will find out what the Russian VVR is, we can say this has been done. For me, it's a feast we are going to celebrate, the 45th anniversary of VVR-210 commissioning. The time frame is unique. It took 8 years from the idea to the implementation and 5 years from the first concrete to the first power. I wish we had the same time frame today.
5 лет. Сегодня очень бы хотелось иметь такие же сроки.
VVR reactor became the realization of the dream of Igor Kurchatov, Anatoly Alexandrov, and all their associates and apprentices, irrespective of whether they were pursuing weapons or strictly peaceful goals. However, as it always happens in true science, the future was given to the young. Already in 1954, physical assemblies were built in the Institute of Atomic Energy. They were used for the experiments with full-size fuel rods, for research into physical properties of the core and protection systems. That's how a crucially new reactor was born.
I believe a reactor is a living being. And since I worked exactly at VVR reactors recently, I believe I understand something about processes which run in a reactor. And I want to say that what had been built into them by the father founders and later developed is undoubtedly the greatest achievement of engineering thought, expressly the greatest achievement of the national engineering thought.
Nuclear workers always choose most complex and difficult options. They come to places where they are mostly needed. There are the central regions of Russia, northern and southern areas of the country. The geography of nuclear power plant siting confirms this. It is no mere chance that Voronezh region was chosen for the first large commercial power plant with water-water reactors. It used to be a rural region, but its economy started gearing up. But energy was short. Thermal power plants run on Donbas coals could not meet regional energy needs. It cost too much, and in the meantime, generous black soil was degrading due to infinite amounts of ash. The situation changed crucially even with startup of the first 210 megawatt reactor. Already in 1965, the electricity output exceeded 10 times the pre-war level in the region. The nuclear giant continued building up its capacity. The abundant energy of atomic nucleus became a servant to humankind. Large chemical enterprises construction sites, industrial facilities and farms in the European part of the Soviet Union needed electricity of Novovoronezh nuclear power plant. The second reactor was put online in December of 1969, the third one in December of 1971. Then the fourth and the fifth came up. Novovoronezh nuclear power plant turned into a large energy hub of the country. We managed to find those who were directly involved in the plant's first reactor startup. These people still work in nuclear power industry. To tell the truth, some of them have retired, but children and grandchildren are keeping with the traditions of their fathers and mothers. That's the story of the Sedovs.
Под нашу смену как раз подошло, когда мы дошли на смену.
It was our shift. We came for the shift, seeing it's up and ready to run the reactor. The turbine controls didn't work well at the first power. It was the guy who was to switch on. He could get it synchronized. He's near to push on, but the machine gets away. I wouldn't tell anyone, just came up to the machine and said, "Guys, hold down the steam a bit and seize pressure." While I was coming back, they switched on. That was my first power of it.
При энергопуске мне встретилось.
During the nuclear power plant installation, the work was carried out at many facilities in parallel.
Here at the plant, I was the chief fuel specialist. I placed fuel orders. That fuel, they took it for the test to the Institute of Atomic Energy before the initial load, so I witnessed the tests. While my family was here in my absence, I was away for months when these works were on.
In addition to official papers and documents, that time left of participants' recollections of those unique events and verse. Those were composed in the main control room. For rare moments, the operators became poets. These verses reflect the time. Happily, some of them have been preserved by Valery Kuznetsov.
We do have a gusty shift. No one missed a tasty gift. Mr. Donuts, Mr. Pie, operator Ivan Rai. Or what's how they encouraged each other to meet operations target. Target set by Christmas Day. Want your wife to shop away. Paul will do December plan, hand in hand and on the round. The truth is that when such a large-scale nuclear build started, in particular the Novovoronezh site, youth magazines were widely discussing a far-fetched topic of whom the future belongs to, physicists or lyricists. So the life has proven that both the present and future belong to the intelligent, gifted professionals. And nuclear professionals are these kind of persons.
There was also a woman who composed verses, but she feels shy to read them in public. She's the world's first female plant shift supervisor. Later, she followed her husband to Kola nuclear power plant.
It's like what task you will charge yourself with. For me, it's routine work. It's difficult, in respect that you should set many things aside. But I didn't want another one, that's it. Therefore, it did not matter for me whether it's a high day or not. If I am on the shift on a high day, it's a sort of high day for me. It's even good to be there. And the great responsibility, of course, since there is nobody at the plant. And we are sitting here, team of some 70, 75 people, being responsible for the plant. It's exciting.
It is always difficult to be a pathfinder, and there is no difference whether it is a man or a large enterprise. Novovoronezh nuclear power plant was destined to become the first site where new VVR reactors and power units were tested. But it is also the first site where full-scale decommissioning of reactors is carried out. It is an extremely complicated process because experience is scarce. That's why there are pathfinders again. It's oddly and unusual to walk through this turbine hall. Here you see how nuclear power plants pass away here. Regretfully, they failed even to hook turbines up somewhere, because the machines became outdated over the long operation period and couldn't be sold, so they scrapped them, like many pieces of equipment and machinery which operated here for half a century. Yet the time has come to have a closer look at VVR reactors. These are the reactors that will operate in Russia's nuclear power industry not only in the 21st century but also in the next century, until fusion comes in, if any. Because even fairy tale heroes cannot catch every firebird, and fusion is such a firebird for the scientists. And VVR, a fairy tale, has turned into a workhorse of the modern nuclear power. What is this reactor good for?
The largest operating experience that has been accumulated so far is VVR experience. I think it is an ordinary workhorse. which at the first stage of nuclear power development ensures reliable electricity supply and provides for active development of not only power generation, but also the entire industry.
Nuclear power plants with VVER reactors are operated in various regions of the country. Recently, service life of some units have been extended. This is the best proof of their operational reliability. By the way, international experts believe that the first and second reactors of Novovoronezh nuclear power plant could be operated for another decade. The units were shut down under the pressure of the furious anti-nuclear campaign that has spread through the country after Chernobyl accident. Today, it is already evident that Chernobyl tragedy was used by politicians to achieve their goals. Not very lofty goals, but most often selfish. They came to power, and having settled in splendid offices, they got it quickly that they wouldn't stay there for long without nuclear power development. And even the most violent nuclear antagonists are calling for nuclear construction now. This is how insight comes. As a rule, its price is too high, but it is paid by us, not by those who made these mistakes. That's it. It's the nature of any rule. Here, everything is soaked with safety principles, various instruments, systems. Generally, the tangible protection is robust, but there is also a moral aspect of it. You go by elevator, look at the mirror and see all of a sudden, plant safety depends on you too. Sometimes it seems to me that there are too much even talks about safety. Most frequently we hear such talks from the environmentalists who say we shouldn't build nuclear power plants because they are very dangerous. It always sounds strange because these environmentalists are the people who care to preserve nature, but nuclear power plants are the only thing that really preserves nature in this world. Certainly we shouldn't kid ourselves. Nuclear power plants are dangerous as everything that surrounds us in this life. Fire is dangerous, isn't it? Look how fires are raging around. Isn't water dangerous? Look at tsunami, floods that happen around every year. Yes, we do live in a dangerous world, and that's why we have to make a choice. A reasonable, well-balanced, common sense, effective and certainly safe. And when we merge these parameters, we start realizing that the safest thing is exactly nuclear power plants, nuclear power industry. Great achievements always bring about great hatred. It manifests differently. Everything depends on the period of time when people live. Strange as it may seem initially, nuclear power depends to be in the focus of tragic events. There is no chance here. The more reliably plants operate and the more advanced the reactors are, the more dangerous they are for those who prefer war to peace, agitation and nervousness to comfortable life. Northern Caucasus is a high-hazard area, a web of problems and a blob of contradictions from ethnic to economic ones. Academician Gennady Matyashov was born in those southern places, and Northern Caucasus problems are not second-hand knowledge for him. And the anxiety over his homeland's future forced the scientist to come back to Rostov-on-Don and set up Southern Scientific Center of the Russian Academy of Sciences. A broad range of tasks to be solved by scientists include the key one, that is to unite peoples of Caucasus and bring them back to normal living. But so far they have to understand and evaluate what is happening in southern Russia.
Ну и мне такое впечатление, что судя вот по тем всяким взрывам.
My impression is that they judge by these blasts, terrorist attacks, and regretfully, these occur also in the Russian language-speaking areas of southern Russia. They grow in number.
И привлекают.
Terrorists are attracted by places where resonance will be higher if one does something or even doesn't do anything. Find such a city and the deed will echo throughout Russia and beyond. They are hanging around hydro plants, nuclear power plants, railroads. It's happening all the time. These are not just railroads, but some in the area of Caucasus Mineral Waters Resort. There are many people. Also, the important thing is that there is a nuclear power plant. First, it is of high capacity, Volgodonsk plant. Second, it is an energy source that is sustainable and independent either of coal or oil or sun, because we have much sun here, not water. As to water, there is Tsemlanskaya hydro. Water is short, so the plant operates at half of its capacity. And add various problems here. But nuclear operates more or less stably, and you may plan energy supplies to the industry. Because how you can plan if you have an energy shortage? In this regard, Volgodonsk plant is certainly a state-of-the-art facility. It's of 1,000 megawatt capacity, and there will be one more of the kind. And we don't have surplus electricity here, in the south of Russia. That's a nuclear power plant, and if there is a new reactor, this will be a great help. I reiterate, this is a stabilizing socio-economic factor, a very weighty one. In any situation, any economy must be supported by 3 or 4 pillars which are extremely sustainable. Nuclear is sustainable. The whole world goes this path. France is totally built on this.
That's how a profound report on the situation in Northern Caucasus appeared. It speaks much about energy generation in general and nuclear in particular. The main conclusion by the scientists is that the situation can be stabilized only by a breakthrough development of economy there. But those who are not interested in stabilization, terrorists and nationalists and various religious fanatics, understand perfectly well that startup of new units is the direct path to changing life in Northern Caucasus to the better. This is one of the most tragic places in contemporary Russia. Here is a plaque on the building, Gagarin Street. Mentioning this name always raises kind feelings, and the monument is nearby, the memorial. September 16, 1999, savages parked a car at the apartment house entrance. The car was stuffed with cyclonite. Then a terrific blast collapsed 2 sections of a huge building. People died. Glazing was shattered in nearby houses. Nuclear power plant workers mainly lived in that apartment house. Similar blasts were off in Moscow, and these 2 addresses, Moscow and Volgodonsk, had not been randomly chosen. It's clear why terrorists blasted 2 apartment houses in Moscow. They wanted to scare the capital, but why Volgodonsk? There are very many towns like this in Russia, but it is a nuclear workers' town, and terrorists wanted to say, here we blast your houses, we can blast the nuclear power plant as well. They wanted to plant fear, but in fact they planted hatred. And one more thing, they made it clear that nuclear power plants must be protected. Of course, in the past nuclear items were well protected in this country. Such items as atomic bombs, charges, though a special attention was not paid to protection of nuclear power plants. Now, nuclear workers secure their facilities profoundly. I know what I'm saying because nuclear workers know how to do it. I think it's enough to say that the system of physical protection of Moscow Kremlin was developed exactly by nuclear workers. But what happened here in September of 1999 will remain in our memory.